T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Oh, yeah. We got a lot to talk about tonight, buddy. We got a lot to talk about tonight, man. The weekend that was. Should tell everybody. So obviously you found us, you're listening to us. You get the Horns show here. Man, this is an interesting show. It's going to get more interesting over time. It's just the two of us tonight. Sometimes there's going to be 1, 2, 4, 15, hard to tell how many will join at any given time. Different people to talk about different things. We've got friends that are college, football experts that we're going to have come in to be able to talk about college football from time to time. We're more, NFL. So, when it comes to football specifically, we talk more about pro stuff. But also, man, this is going to be a lot of stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with sports, right? We're going to talk about cultural stuff, real life stuff, news, current events, all kinds of different things, give our opinion on it, and really kind of lay out what we believe, what we're about, and kind of, I think, what we probably think of as being actual common sense. That there's not enough of in the world at this point. So, we're going to kind of give the unvarnished, the legit truth on our feelings and what we think about things. Some people will agree with us, and we certainly hope that they'll continue to find us over time. And we'll create our own tribe. So, first things first, we got so much to talk about, man. I want to start off, and I'm going to let you lead the way on this, man. I want to start off with news and notes about the NFL because, man, we had a crazy, crazy weekend. It was incredible. So let's kick off a little NFL music to get us in the mood here.
Oh, let's do it.
That's right, baby. If you don't get pumped up about that, man, you first of all, this ain't the show for you, number one. Number two, man, I don't know if that doesn't get you excited after a year away from football. That is a sweet, sweet sound to the ear there. So man, this was an insane weekend. Take it away, man. You got some news, some notes, some storylines, a lot of stuff to catch us up on and kind of get some different takes on. So what do you got for us, man? Where do you want to start with this thing?
Well, let's start with the biggest game of the weekend, the Pittsburgh Steelers shocking the Bengals.
Wow. Yeah.
What a ridiculous game that was. I mean, I don't know if it was a good game, a bad game, or insane.
Yeah. I
mean, you had, first off, I have no idea who lets Jamar Chase single covered with
how
5 seconds left in the game.
Yeah.
How does it happen? And then Micah comes in, blocks that extra point, and then from there it was just chaos, pure chaos from the rest of the way. I mean, you had then the missed field goal. The laces.
Oh,
laces out, Dan.
Unbelievable.
I mean, it's crazy. And it just shows how fickle kickers are. Like, they just can't, I don't know. I've never kicked a football with laces in.
Yeah.
But apparently it's very difficult because Evan McPherson is probably one of the top 3 kickers in the NFL.
Gotta think so.
And he just shanked it. And then you come down, Boswell misses the 54,
55, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like you should almost get extra points for somehow hitting the uprights with the football.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea how that happens. How you do that is amazing.
Yeah.
And then managed to get these guys to punt the ball.
I mean, the game had it all. The game had everything you'd want to see. Every single aspect of good football and bad football. Amazing special teams play, amazing defensive plays, and then insanely boneheaded plays as well. And one thing that I want to make sure, and I know you probably have this on your list here to touch on, but man, I just want to make sure that we talk about Zach Taylor head coach of the Bengals, not challenging what definitely would have been a touchdown. And I don't know if the thinking is, we'll probably make it from the goal line, but I just don't understand that line of thinking whatsoever. Doesn't make any sense.
No, it's I don't know. I don't know what the thought process was there. I don't know, again, maybe it's what it was, because at that point, what is it, second, third down? I mean, you still have plays, I guess, but I mean, clearly they're not guaranteed.
Yeah.
I mean, so it was, what a game, man. Minkah, of course, balled out. I mean, it was just all over the field. I mean,
he single-handedly kept them in that game. I mean, Minkah really, legitimately single-handedly kept them in the game between the huge pick, the blocked extra point. I mean, this was Minkah Fitzpatrick, and this is why you bring him in. This is why you made the move for him a few years ago, to have a guy as a playmaker, because you're getting ready to, I think, go into a major storyline around that game, which was T.J. Watt's injury. And really at the end of that game, you started wondering, is this going to come back to haunt them, with the loss of T.J. Watt in an overtime game, a game that either you should have never won or you never should have lost. I'm not sure which, because you forced 5 turnovers from Joe Burrow and you still can't manage to put the game away. Didn't matter whichever side of it you're on. You could take a positive or a negative from it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It looks like TJ probably escaped serious injury. They're talking now 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
So torn pec, but not a torn tendon.
Yeah.
So apparently those go hand in hand, I suppose. I don't know. Pec sounds like I would probably want it sewed back up if I tore mine.
I'd probably want an epidural.
Man, I mean, I'd want something. From all reports, he's walking around and at the facility, good spirits. I mean, so we'll see. Still 6 weeks. That's pretty big. We did bring in Malik Reed, who backed up Chubb in Denver, and then also who am I thinking of? Von Miller. And played well while they were out.
Yeah.
Just huge holes to fill there, and just such a big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow,
Ooh.
sacked 7 times in that game.
Yeah. And that's just the sacks. That's not even counting the hits. I mean, this guy, they've got to figure something out, because the whole storyline going into this year for Cincinnati was they revamped that offensive line. That was their, was their Achilles heel from last year. This is going to be, the way that they solve that problem moving forward. And it sure hasn't happened yet. Didn't look any better.
4th time in his career that he's been sacked 7 times or more. And you know what the crazy part is? This is the 3rd time in 4 games that he's been sacked 7 times. Remember, he was sacked 9 times versus Tennessee.
Yep.
And he was sacked 7 times in the Super Bowl.
That's amazing.
And then comes right back and is sacked again.
Well, and the thing, too, that people have to keep in mind is he's coming off of an appendectomy. Like, this guy just had an appendectomy a few weeks ago. And he just got beat to hell on Sunday with an appendectomy. So I mean, this guy. Look, I'll give him credit for his toughness. Right, he can take a beating, but he shouldn't have to. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that they've got to figure out on that Cincinnati Bengals team is you've got the guy. How do you protect him? Yeah,
you shouldn't have to, and really, you can't. You can't sustain that. Yeah. I mean, how are you going to sustain getting sacked that many times, game in and game out? Yeah. He's not as big as Ben was. Ben gets sacked, and you're like, okay, well, he's 6'5", he's 250. That's not going to be, that's not Burrow at this point. So.
No, and the truth of the matter is, there is a history of solid quarterbacks that careers never got off the ground. And, I'm thinking about a David Carr and, back with the Texans back in the day. Yeah. I mean, guys who had the pedigree, but you don't know, okay, is that what derailed them, is just getting the life beat out of them every single week of the season? I mean, it just can't happen. It can't happen long term.
Yeah, it's got to make you trigger happy at some point. I mean, Graham Burrows stayed in there. I mean, he's a stud.
Yeah.
He stayed in there and did well. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase clearly is the real deal at this point. I mean, you wonder, you're like, all right, you put up really good rookie numbers, but man, that dude's just a monster.
Yeah.
So, what's going on in New England?
Boy, look, I mean, this is an interesting one because, we had our buddy T-Rock who was on the show last week and he was, for anyone listening, we all have a big text chain and we're in communication really all the time, all day, 7 days a week on any various topics. And, I think T-Rock really thought that the New England was going to go in and beat Miami because I think he's still just thinking of the traditional Miami Dolphins, the old way of the Miami Dolphins. And look, I don't know here. I'm not sure. Is this, an emergency for New England, or is it just, hey, Miami's a better team than they used to be? They're starting to come into their own. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, we got a brand new head coach. We've got some new weapons. It's hard to say, but New England, you don't expect to go in and just get physically dominated the way that they did.
I mean, and you would say that like, all right, well, maybe it's just Miami's that good, but New England looked terrible in the preseason, and it's just carried over. So we'll see. I mean, who's their offensive coordinator? Are they named an offensive coordinator at this point yet?
Getting ready to say the same thing. I mean, you've got the Joe Judge situation and Matt Patricia, and they're trying to figure out who's going to do what. And of course, Belichick still being Belichick. The loss of Josh McDaniels is going to be, I think, a big one for them. And I don't think that they've known how they were going to overcome it. And it does not look like that plan has really solidified yet based on the effort that we saw on Sunday. And boy, Mac Jones, another guy, he's going to have to be able to take a beating. This offense does not look ready. And he's going to have to really, kind of be able to carry the load. And I think it's going to be an unpleasant year for him and probably for New England fans as well.
I think so too. It's just it's not like New England. I mean, you kind of figured it the first year Brady left.
Yeah,
you kind of expected that, but you really expected them to right the ship and right it quickly. I mean, you spent all that money on tight ends. It's just, and I just don't feel like they utilize them. And then their running back situation, this is what they've always done. They trot out like 40 running backs. But there just never seems to be a consistency with them. And it's got to be difficult for, second year quarterback to come in, different players play different ways and like trying to learn all that. And you're rotating all these guys in and out. So we'll see if they can right the ship. It could be a very long year. For sure.
Well, and let's face it. I mean, there's absolutely no argument that the balance of power has shifted in that division. I mean, forever it was New England and everyone else. And if New England had played in any other division in football, any other division other than maybe the AFC South, any other division, there's no chance they win the number of Super Bowls that they did. But you had a guaranteed bye every single year in the playoffs because you're playing the Bills, the Dolphins, the Jets. I mean, teams that are just no threat whatsoever. So you should have 8 wins under your belt right away. And all you got to do is win 2 or 3 more games. You're in the playoffs and you're going to have the first round bye. Now, that isn't that way anymore. There's no skating by and getting a free pass like they did for 15 years.
No.
Now, that division runs through Buffalo first and foremost, and Miami. Look, it's only 1 week in, right? This could easily be one of our overreactions of the week, but
for sure.
But Miami really look, they got a lot of good energy happening. That's all I'll say. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of if it's going to be good football. But they got good energy. They got good momentum. We'll have to see where that goes.
You got Mike McDaniel coming in, rookie head coach, coming in under the Shanahan tree. I mean, he knows how to run an offense, and they definitely have the weapons for it. So
they got great weapons there. I mean, man, I was thinking about it. Everyone, of course, obviously, everyone curious to see what Tua does this year, and I hesitate to even say the name Tua because I feel like it's just get talked into the ground. But there's a ton of curiosity about what Tua is going to do. if he can't make it work on that team, rest assured, he just can't make it work, because you're not going to have, you know, a Jalen Waddle, a Tyreek Hill. Like, that's a dream for a quarterback. And so he has every weapon he could want. It's going to be on him.
I think Miami did it right, and the Eagles as well. Like, okay, we're going to put all these guys around you. Show us you're the man.
Yep.
Show us you can handle it. After week one, both, I would say, are living up to the billing. So now I see Ravens won pretty handedly.
Yeah.
That probably was to be expected.
It was.
The Joe Flacco revenge game didn't go quite as planned. What I thought was curious on this game was Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
He only ran 6 times for 17 yards. Now, I didn't get a chance to catch the game. Caught a bunch of highlights and stuff. But do you think that was strategic, or do you think that was a statement? Where do you think that falls?
Well, you know, it was interesting. We talked about this last week. So, you know, full disclosure, I am a Ravens fan. Have been a long time. I go to the playoff games. I've been to the Super Bowl. Like, I watch the Ravens games. And, you know, one of the things that I think sometimes people get a little bit carried away with the Ravens is, you know, if they're throwing the ball, everyone wants to know why they're not running the ball. If they're running the ball really well, then everyone's saying, well, it's because they don't have a number one receiver. They got to be able to throw the ball better if they're going to beat, you know, the other teams in the AFC. You know, I always look at it like they take a game plan of path of least resistance. If you are going to prevent us from doing one thing, no problem. We'll just take the other thing that you're giving us. Early in this game, the Jets clearly had game planned to stop the run. Full sellout, stop the run. They were stacking the box. Ravens did go out initially and try to run the ball a few times. And, you know, and I'm going to draw a blank on, I believe it was James Lofton, and I'm going to draw a blank on the other announcer there that were doing the game. And they were talking about the fact that, hey, look, the Ravens are going to have to throw the ball because if they want to pull those, you know, the Jets defense out of the box, right? They got to open up the field. And sure. Lamar started doing exactly that. And, you know, so it's really just a matter of them taking what they were given. And, you know, likewise, if the Jets have been selling out to stop the pass, you better believe they'd have run it down their throat. So I think I don't say that it was really a statement too much or too much buy-in one way or another. The other thing too, though, is that we're still talking about a Ravens team that's missing their top 2 running backs. So they bring in Kenyon Drake off the street, you know, signed him like 2 weeks ago. I mean, this brand new to the offense, brand new to the system. Kenyon Drake and Mike Davis and a little bit of Justice Hill are you know, who we saw in the game. So this is really not, you know, it's so early in the season. We know these early games don't really tell you a whole lot. I believe that over time, and particularly again, all pro offensive lineman Ronnie Stanley still out. So you have a rookie center in there. I mean, there's just so many reasons. And then, of course, maybe the guy with some of the worst luck in the NFL, Ronnie Stanley's backup, Jawan James. This guy out for 3 years, had torn his Achilles, voluntarily sat out due to COVID. Poor guy comes in first game in 3 years and tears his Achilles again at the end of the first quarter. So that's going to be an interesting one. Now, talk about an injury. We were talking about TJ Watt a little bit ago. I learned a little bit about Achilles injuries. Apparently, Jawan James' Achilles injury is considered a better one because the tendon tore off the bone, which doesn't seem like it would be better, but apparently it is.
Sounds awesome.
Apparently, you want it off the bone rather than the tendon itself being torn or severed. So apparently the tendon as a whole is still in place. It's just off the bone. They reattach it to the bone, considered to be a better and faster healing process. You know, I'm not single. I'm not, if I were, I'd probably still be in the bars telling ladies I'm a doctor. But you know, I don't tell anyone I'm a doctor anymore, so I can't claim that I'm an expert on this, but that's what I understand, is that it should be a faster healing process for him. So, you know, in that scenario, I guess it was as good as it could be, but you know, and Jawan James, to his credit, man, guy's already come out and said he's coming back. He's going to be ready to go. How you managed to do that after 3 years. I mean, this guy, you know, hey, I give him a ton of credit. a lot of mental toughness had to come into the first comeback, and to turn around and do it again is just brutal. But it puts more pressure on Ronnie Stanley to come back for sure. And now we have a third string lineman in there. So, going to have to make some moves there. And hopefully Ronnie's going to be healthy soon. I think they're easing him back in. I think, we'll probably see him on the field here soon.
How long are the Niners going to go with Trey Lance? I mean, okay. We'll call it an overreaction after one game, but man, he did not look good at all. 164 yards. He threw a pick. He did run for 54 yards. Field was bad. I mean, I had heard at kickoff there were like literal puddles on the field.
It was terrible looking.
So, I mean, I guess you take that into consideration, but man, could not be the start that the Niners were hoping for.
I'll tell you,
especially since you still have Garoppolo on the team.
That's a big one. Here's what I'll tell you. This will be, my thing is, I think Trey Lance, you are officially on the clock. I have no idea, what this is going to mean for him. Look, it's one game, right? And so I don't think we can completely overreact and say Trey Lance isn't the guy, but he is a guy that hasn't played a ton of football. He's a guy that looked lost in that game. And the other thing is, I hear a lot of people talking about the weather, and that's absolutely true, but Justin Fields was playing in the exact same weather. And I'm not saying that he went out and, and lit the world on fire, but if you're the Niners and you're looking at the schedule, the Bears, you already had marked as a win. You cannot possibly lose that game under any circumstances. I don't care if you have the Maytag repairman at quarterback, you are never going to lose that game against the Bears. And somehow they did. So look, it makes it really interesting moving forward. I got no idea what to expect. It's going to be an interesting amount of pressure in San Francisco.
If he struggles the next two games the same way, I mean, how can you not? I mean, you're going to have to ship Jimmy out of town if you just want to start Lance all year and say, because say, no, he's our quarterback. You're just going to have to move him, to Dallas or whatever, because the fans, everyone is just going to be clamoring for Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy's not the world beater, but he's solid. You've seen his record. You see his numbers. I mean,
agreed. A lot of pressure.
This could be such a huge bust if he does not turn it around. I mean, it's got to be one of the biggest busts. I mean, as much as you gave up for him,
three number ones to move up to take a guy with so little experience, and he's shown you nothing, no return on that investment.
No, and hadn't even played in 2020. They didn't have, like, it wasn't that he sat out. Right. North Dakota State was like, no, we're not having a football season. COVID. Didn't even play.
Those are the types of freedoms you have when you're North Dakota State, right? It's like, if you're in Alabama, you don't care what disease it is. You don't care if there's an asteroid hitting in Tuscaloosa. You play. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. North Dakota State, it's like, we're cool. We can, it doesn't matter,
not a big deal.
No pressure.
Deal, but so that's going to be one to watch. I mean, it has to be. I mean, again, you kept Jimmy, you restructured his deal, you kept him. He's available to play.
He's sitting there.
You have a Super Bowl team. I mean, you really
They certainly think so.
And it just comes down to the quarterback. I mean,
and the problem is, I'll say this briefly because I know we got a lot to cover. I know we need to move on, but the thing that I'll say briefly is I've heard some people say you can't win with Garoppolo. And the tricky part for me is they've already won with Garoppolo. Right? Like they've made it to a Super Bowl with Garoppolo. They've made playoff runs with Garoppolo. You're not going to see that. Like, I mean, look, we don't know what's going to happen with Trey Lance, but this idea that like, Garoppolo is just a lost cause. Trey Lance is your future. I just don't think that we're at that point yet that you can feel confident that that's the case.
I mean, they're trending that way, though. Like, they just don't want to be wrong, and I can't blame them. However, if you're wrong, just say, hey, we're wrong. We're going back to Jimmy, and we're going to figure this thing out. You know, it's you know, you got too good of a team to be trying to have a quarterback figured out on the run.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed. What else we got?
How ticked off was Patrick Mahomes? I mean, my goodness. This dude, I mean, all offseason, it was all Tyreek and this, and then he comes out, throws for 360 yards, 5 touchdowns, threw to 9 different receivers. I mean, he looked amazing.
Yeah, look, I
mean,
think at the end of the day,
my.
Don't piss off Patrick Mahomes. Don't even cut him off in traffic. Like, don't do anything because this dude clearly has rage issues. He's going out just furious about. And meanwhile, look, they've revamped that team really pretty well. With Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster in there now. I mean, he's got great weapons, and he is clearly not afraid to use them.
Good weapons.
Good weapons.
I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to think that, Valdez-Scantling is like some, great.
Yeah, he's not a Hall of Famer,
receiver, but solid.
Yeah.
But solid. Juju, I don't know. I'd say the book's still out on Juju.
Yeah.
I mean, but what I can tell you, when he was in Pittsburgh, you needed a third down. I don't care where they were on the field, Ben was looking to Juju because that's all he did. Like, he came up with the big plays at the right time. Great pickup by them. I mean, I was sad to see him go. I loved him. I mean, his, TikTok antics or whatever,
yeah, he's an immature guy, but he, look, this is the world we live in nowadays with these young players. And
yeah. It's hard to because they're all doing it.
Yep.
They're
That's right.
all now wanting to be famous outside of football. So, he played his tail off.
Yeah, agreed.
Taysom Hill. Is he supposed to be a tight end?
I believe he's a tight end now. I do believe I read, and look, I mean, we're doing a show here. I guess we should know this information. I'm going to say with decent confidence, I'm not sure that Taysom Hill's parents know exactly what he's doing at any given time, but I believe he is a tight end now.
Yes, they were training him. They were moving him to tight end. They said, you can no longer be quarterback. Yeah. And this dude turns out, and again, 81 rushing yards and a touchdown. I mean,
look, this
crazy.
Saints team is under the radar, too. This Saints team is a sneaky team in that division.
Jameis Winston, solid, 2 touchdowns, no picks.
Michael Thomas, healthy.
Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, and Jarvis Landry, too.
Jarvis Landry averaged 16.3 yards a catch.
I mean, come on, man.
That has to be career high for him.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude does nothing but catch 6, 7, 8 yard slants. I mean, and 16.3 yards of reception. That was that was crazy.
Yeah.
Here's the other one too. With that game, Cordero Patterson.
What an athlete!
Why was that dude never put at running back before?
They've never been able to figure out quite what to do with him.
New England, I guess, maybe is what kind of started that whole situation with him, kind of putting him back there. I mean, he was Deebo Samuel before Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
I mean, again, he 120 yards, touchdown. I mean,
guy makes plays, special teamer, great special teamer. I mean, he just does it all.
Yeah, I really felt like he wasted a good 6-7 years of his career.
Yeah.
I mean, if he would have maybe he wouldn't have been healthy enough to play running back all these years.
Right.
But man, yeah, that dude is doing it. So, Broncos. What was that?
Look, I went on our YouTube channel here. You Get the Horns show. Went on our TikTok. You Get the Horns. Filmed instant reaction last night to that game. Look, I could spend all night talking about it. I'm going to spend as little time as possible talking about it because I feel like now it's being talked about everywhere. But this is another, again, it's like the 49ers losing to the Bears. If you are Denver, you saw Seattle on that schedule. That's a win for you. That's an automatic win. There is a 0% chance of losing that game. And you blew it.
That's Russ coming in That's Russ coming in, throwing for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns.
You're going to torch these guys.
Giving the salute as he walks away, saying, "You all miss me. You didn't appreciate me. Right. You miss me now."
And no one wanted that more than Russell Wilson, too. Look, I mean, I don't think there's no love lost between you and I and Russell Wilson, right? So let's be clear about this. We are not Russell Wilson fans, but he's a good quarterback, good player, right? There's no taking that away from him. I can take a lot of other things away from him. I cannot take that away from him. He's a good player. He's had success. He's also a guy who let's face it, while all of the talk is about the team, it's really about Russell Wilson. And he wanted to come in there last night and be a hero and walk off that field at what he perceived to be, this is my revenge tour. And it just didn't work out that way. I mean, and look, nobody's going to claim that the Geno Smith buzzsaw is going to continue to mow through the entire rest of the NFL, right? Nobody's thinking that. But the truth of the matter is, you have a Denver Broncos defense that is a solid defense. Most people think that that's minimally a top 10 defense in the NFL.
Sure.
And the Seahawks with so few players you can even name on offense, march down. Geno Smith throws 2 first-half touchdowns. They held a lead basically the entire game and made stops on defense when they absolutely had to, when it was needed most. And then you get into some of the most confusing play calling imaginable. And I don't know if you saw this, so I'm going to throw it out there to you if you didn't. I saw this come up just before the show. Nathaniel Hackett has now come out and said that upon further review, they definitely should have gone for it on 4th down. They should not have kicked the field goal. I don't know if Nathaniel Hackett has just opened his email, checked his Twitter, looked at anything on TV, ESPN, Fox Sports, or anything else to get that inclination. But the bottom line is, yeah, buddy, you're absolutely right. You should have gone for it.
And it wasn't even so much like the field goal. Fine. What was it?
64. It would have been tied for the second longest field goal in history, the longest being Justin Tucker's 66-yarder last year in Detroit.
Okay. Fine if you go for it. Like, okay, you don't think you can pick up 5 yards on Seattle's defense. Fine. But you wasted 30-plus seconds just standing around.
Yes.
Like, what was that whole play call sequence even about? And then you get up there and you're like, oh, okay, let's take a timeout. You and I talked about it. Russell Wilson has full authority on that field.
Has to.
You saw the Peyton Manning clip, and he's just
yes, yeah. And I'm going to say, like, if for anyone who hasn't seen that, I'm going to find it and I will put it up on the show Twitter feed to be able to make sure that people can see that, because you're referring to the Manning cast that was on last night, and you had absolutely Peyton Manning freaking out, saying over and over again, I'm gonna call a timeout here. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. We need the timeout. Now's the time for the timeout. What are we doing? And he's doing it with his hands, teeing it up like everything else. Like, what are we doing, guys? So this is crazy. So, again, Twitter, at Get the Horns Show, I will have that clip up there for people to see, for anyone who's missed it.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Really
Eli too. Even Eli Manning knows what's going on. He's like, well, what's happening? Shannon Sharp screaming at the television. I'm not even sure he knew he was still on the show. He's just yelling at the screen.
He's just fanning it up at that point.
Yeah.
It was so great. It's funny though. It's cool to see like how Manning is still
invested
that, mode.
Yep.
He's still invested. That's so great. But I don't know what that was about. I mean, you got to go for it on 4th and 5 that long. I mean,
you paid Russell Wilson $250 million. A quarter guy has a $250 million contract or whatever it is. You paid him the money. This is the exact situation that you paid him that money to be able to execute on. Okay, you could say he should have gotten it on 3rd down. Fair enough. You had the sack, you had the holding penalty, but whatever. Like, at the end of the day, you got the guy. You went out. You felt like, hey, as a team, we're a play or two away from being able to really contend. And game one, the first game that you're in this situation to execute that play or two, you bring your best player off the field and you try to kick. And here's the thing. Now, I'm not going to have all of this information, unfortunately, exactly right. So don't hold me to this completely. However, since I believe it was 1960, there have been 41 attempts at field goals. I believe it was from 61 yards or more. Might have been from 64 or more. Point is, 4 have been made. 4. Okay. So the idea that you're bringing this guy out with some sort of fantastic, his career, if I remember correctly, the career, it's something like 12.5% from 60 or more. And look, the reality is you got to have a better chance at 4th and 5 with Russell Wilson when you're clearly the better team than you have marching a kicker out there to kick the second longest field goal in history when you have time on the clock. And they didn't even go up to try to do a hard count to draw the defense off and maybe pick up a first down that way. It was just confusion, just confusion.
Yeah, just utter confusion. Like this is not something we practice. Yeah. Like we never expected to be in this position.
We didn't think a 4th down was going to come up this game whatsoever. We couldn't have anticipated this.
Holy cow. I mean, you can maybe buy it if it's in Denver,
sure.
Altitude, everything else. Like, sure, why not? Kick them out, march them out there. Let's try it. But again, you paid all that money to Russell Wilson.
Yep.
And you put it into a kicker's hands. It just, it doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
So, all right. Well, that was, I think that's probably all we need to do. I'm sure everyone else has watched plenty of sports highlights, but these are some things that kind of just stuck out to me.
Agreed.
I'd like to do now our let's do week 1 overreactions.
Yeah.
All right. I want to get us started.
Yeah.
Dak's injury. And actually, I don't even think this is an overreaction. I think this is probably it. Dak's injury is going to ruin the Cowboys' chances to repeat in the NFC East.
Agreed.
I mean, they're going to Cooper Rush. There was talks earlier in the day that they were looking at Garoppolo, which, would have, again, what are you going to do? If Jimmy comes in and lights it up, then now you've got another, $200 million quarterback that what are you going to do with? And then probably an hour after that, I think Jerry Jones goes on radio and says, we're not even going to put him on IR.
Yeah. Can't get out of their own way, man.
Cannot get out of their own way. I mean, Cooper Rush is who they decided to go into the season with as their backup.
That's the problem. Is poor planning before the season. It has nothing to do with what you do now. It was poor planning before the season started. Can't be in that situation.
I'm saying Niners give, and we talked about this, I'm saying Niners give Trey Lance 2 more games. If he falls flat on his face these next 2 games, it's done.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it's not done for good, but it's probably done. You cannot go 0-3 in that division and with quarterback play like that. I mean, if you go 0-3 and he's playing lights out, then you say, okay, but if you have nothing to hang on, no hope in your quarterback, I mean, that's got to wear on the teammates. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he's a great guy. And look, maybe he'll turn it around.
Sure.
I mean, this is overreaction. So I'm saying he's got 2 more games at best to turn it around or they're done.
Yeah.
They're going to have to say, we made a mistake. And look, you made a mistake with all those draft picks. Fine. But don't compound it by having a terrible season because of your quarterback.
Yeah.
So write it off, chalk it up. You know what? Just didn't happen. We're going to have him sit. We're going to have him learn, and we're bringing Jimmy back in. So we'll see.
That's a tough one. Look, for my overreaction, man, I went a bunch of different ways on this. I had so many different thoughts, but there's one because of all the games on Sunday. I feel like, and of course Monday, I feel like we lost sight of a little something. And that is the overreaction that the Bills are unstoppable and the Rams, it's over. I think it's too early in the season after one game to be able to say that the Rams are done and the Bills are as good as they looked. Look, if they're really going to be that good, they will absolutely steamroll the entire league. But I have absolutely no belief that that's going to happen. I think we're buying too much into the Bills after one game, and and jumping off the bandwagon of the Rams after one game. And the bottom line is, if you look at who the Rams have, there's just a ton of talent on that side of the ball, and they haven't lost their most talented positions. They still have Sean McVay at the head coaching position. They've still got Matt Stafford at the quarterback position. They've still got Cooper Kupp out there, catching God knows everything from everywhere. They have a lot of weapons on that team. Sony Michel running you just got a lot happening. And I just think, everyone's willing to give up on them so quickly because they're looking at it going, wow, that was a Super Bowl team that Buffalo dismantled. Yeah, okay, but again, we were just talking about the Bears and the Niners, right? Like, you can't say the season is over for San Francisco after one game. Again, it is an overreaction, right? That's what we're talking about. So you want to be realistic, but I do think we're a little too in on Buffalo and a little bit too out. And my guess is Buffalo is going to come back to earth.
Okay. I think Buffalo is who they are. I think they are just going to steamroll the NFL this year.
Well,
They're just too talented all over.
They got a lot.
I mean, paying up Von Miller, which at first I was like, man, it seems like an overreach for Von. I mean,
they paid him a ton of money.
They did. I mean, but first game, man, he dominated. We'll say with the Rams, man, they are missing Odell. They're missing,
they need a complimentary piece to Cooper
Robert
Kupp.
Woods. Yep. That's it. Maybe Allen Robinson isn't it, anymore. I don't know.
Not the debut that they expected to have from Allen Robinson.
Not at all. And again, I'm sure he didn't play hardly any in the preseason, so I'm sure it's, again, just repetition and getting going. So it's not going to shock me that Odell, once he's healthy, is going to re-sign back with them. I mean, it's just a tailor-made place for him. It's L.A.
Yeah.
And, he's with the Rams. He's comfortable with them. So I will have to imagine once he's healthy, he's re-signing with them.
Agreed.
So, Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL.
I don't even think that's an overreaction. I don't think that's an overreaction at all. I think that's just a reaction to what we have seen. We saw it last year, and there's absolutely no signs that this year would be any different. If anything, he might be better this year.
I think he is. And he's 23 years old. 184 yards on 9 catches, and he had 2 touchdowns.
Guy's a killer, man. Reminds me of myself. And really amazing. Really. Sure. Just a heck of an athlete.
That one time. That one time in Pee Wee, yeah, I remember that.
Well, I got a bad knee. I mean, it's different now, but
sure.
I mean, Justin Jefferson is like a guy who there isn't an answer for. I don't know that I don't think it matters who you put on him. I'm not sure it matters who you double him with. Like, it's just too much. It's too much.
Cousins had 274 passing yards. 184 of those went to Jefferson.
Yeah.
Like, this is where you could see Justin Jefferson, and this is an overreaction. I'll say this: he keeps this up, he will be an MVP. He'll be the MVP because they're not going to give it to Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Not whenever he's catching 75% of your passing yards.
Yeah.
He's accounting for. Man, that guy is special. And man, the Vikings this year. Ooh.
Sneaky, man. Sneaky.
I mean, I saw some people picking them and I just didn't quite get it. I'm just like, all right, Green Bay lost Devontae Adams. Like, surely not that big of a deal. But man, after week 1, you're like,
They got the pass rush there with Hunter and Zadarius Smith. They've got the offensive weapons. I mean, look, if Kirk Cousins can just do what Kirk Cousins does, he doesn't have to be that special. If he can just do what he does, they're just going to be a tough team. They're going to be a tough team to stop. Very curious. Very curious to see them.
Yeah. And that's just Kirk just steers the ship.
Yep.
Let your other guys take control, just put them all in the right places. And and let them do the work. So,
Agreed.
man, it's got to be fun to be a quarterback on that team.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So, all right, what else you got? You got another reaction for us?
You know, I went back and forth on this overreaction, and you know, I don't know which way I want to go with it. So I'm gonna throw it out there to you.
All right.
It's either that the Tennessee Titans are done. Derrick Henry's a shell of his former self. They lost to the Giants, which is, again, an impossible loss if you're the Tennessee Titans. Can't happen. Had no answer whatsoever for Saquon Barkley. Like, they didn't even try to answer for that dude. It was just like, no, just don't touch him. Let him run free. If he gets out there, just let him go. Don't mess with him. Saquon didn't shy away from contact. I'll give him credit. Like, that guy, you know, he, even after the injuries and the issues he's had, he doesn't care. He's you know, he'll get out there. So it's either the overreaction is Tennessee's done, or Saquon Barkley's back, amazing, incredible. He's going to be this monster running back this year. I don't know. I don't want to bet against Saquon. I'm not a Saquon Barkley fan per se, but I also, you know, the guy's been injured, right? So I want to take that into consideration. But I also, man, there's been a long history, and the history so far has been that there's not been a lot of production. But it is a new team, new offense, so many things happening. So I don't know. Is that game, the Giants beating Tennessee, is that game more about Tennessee or more about the New York Giants and Saquon Barkley?
Funny, we didn't talk about our overreactions for the show.
Correct.
You know, because we want to kind of keep them just, all right, you know, let me hear what you have to say. Let me hear what I have to say. My overreaction was Saquon Barkley is back and a top 5 running back in the league.
There you go.
So for me, it was, 184 yards. I'm sorry. He had 164 yards and a touchdown on 18 carries. That 2-point conversion, which, Tannehill was trying to be Patrick Mahomes and do the under toss. Completely, it was just not a good play. No. Saquon made that 2-point conversion happen. Yeah, that was my overreaction. Was more on Saquon being back, and it was just an unexpected thing.
Yeah, that
the Titans just weren't accounting for. Now we'll see. You got the rookie from Liberty.
Malik Willis. Yep.
Malik Willis
waiting in the wings,
sitting there waiting in the wings. And that's, again, you start going down 0-2, 0-3, 0-4 in the season, you're going to hear clamorings. And, that's got to be pressure, man. Like, Tannehill hasn't had that kind of pressure in quite a while. I wouldn't say that he played bad.
Right.
And then, of course, Henry coming off of the injury as well. I'm not sure he played. Did he even play a snap in the preseason? I'm not sure he got on the field on the preseason. If he did, it was very, very, very minimal. So,
have you seen the video of the shot that Derrick Henry took during the game?
Yeah, what they say when Derrick Henry feels like what it's like to get hit by Derrick Henry.
That's right. Yeah, man, you don't see a guy that big, that powerful get lit up very often, and he definitely did. And hey, let's look. It's going to be interesting. Again, could be a trap game. You don't like to think of week 1 games being trap games for good teams. But these things happen
though, because you think last year Buffalo lost in Buffalo to Pittsburgh week 1, and then Buffalo just went on a roll.
Yeah.
So week 1 you really just have to chalk it up. Like the old adage, season doesn't start till week 4. Problem is these days is you don't really have till week 4 to figure it out. Very rarely, do you have 4 games to, by that time somebody else in the division's 4-0, and now you're just climbing up that hill.
That's right.
And, it's just you're just fighting all year for it. So
yeah, very true.
How freaking good is Justin Herbert? My goodness, did you see that throw? Into the end zone.
Yeah.
It just for being so young. I mean, what is it? This is now he's going into his.
I believe it's
third.
third. I believe so.
Third.
Yeah, it's insane.
Maturity.
And I'll tell
Did
you.
you see? Sorry, I'm gonna cut you off.
No.
Did you see the article? Gosh, I'm drawing a blank of where I saw the article at, but there was they said a veteran NFL coach
Yes.
had talked to this reporter and had said that he believes that Justin Herbert is the best quarterback in the NFL
Already. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Already.
I mean, we just talked about what Patrick Mahomes did, right? We just talked about Josh Allen.
Sure.
We're talking about Lamar Jackson. We're talking about these guys. I mean, look, Justin Herbert has every single tool and skill you could possibly want to see out of a quarterback. I think it's really interesting, too. Sometimes I think maybe people's memories are fading. Maybe mine is if I'm remembering this wrong, but I don't believe I am. I believe the Miami Dolphins passed on Justin Herbert to take Tua. And, you know, who
also passed on him was the Washington Commanders, and they took Chase Young.
And look.
Now, I had this conversation yesterday, and tell me what you think. I had this conversation with a buddy yesterday. I said, okay, the Commanders passed on him. Would Herbert still be this good?
It's always the question. Yeah, it's the eternal question.
See,
on
and
things.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because you would say, like, oh, Commanders should have taken him. And then they take him, and then he turns out like every other quarterback that the Commanders have had.
Yeah.
And, Chargers, they take Chase Young, and Chase Young is defensive MVP.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that, but boy, oh boy, I guarantee there's a lot of teams that wish they would not have passed on Justin Herbert.
Boy, there's no kidding there. Now, I will say the flip side is, people have slept a little bit on Chase Young because of the injury last year. Guy was a game wrecker there, as a rookie, really started and looked good. Obviously, I don't expect him to be, on a Justin Herbert level on the defensive side of the ball. Good player, we'll see what happens. But boy, yeah, a lot of people having some regrets over certain choices that were made